Hey, my name is Nick Metzger, and in today's video, I bring you one of my absolute favorite success stories that one of my students has ever gone through. His name is Michael Brown, and he was able to go from being depressed in a hole, smoking weed all the time, to running a successful video business that just made over $23,000 past December, in December 2022. And his story is absolutely amazing. His journey has lots of ups and downs, and I would love for him to tell his story to you. So let's get right into it. All right, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time, for being here. Actually, just for the viewer who is watching this video, has no idea who you are, what's your name, where you're from, and how long have you been making videos?
Yeah, so my name is Michael Brown. I'm from Effort, Pennsylvania. It's kind of like Northeast Pennsylvania. I'm really from New York, but I've been living in Pennsylvania for a long time. And, I've been doing videos for a long time, but there's been some breaks in there. I started out making music. I had my own studio for a little while. I was doing audio engineering, and that just naturally led into video because we were too poor to pay somebody to do a video for us. So I was like, hey, I'll figure it out. Just pick up a cheap camera and then just kind of taught myself how to use it. But then, when my son was born, I kind of stopped doing everything. And then just in 2020 decided, or really late 2019, like, hey, I've been missing something here. Like literally that creative outlet was my expression, right? It was my way to kind of get things out. And that was missing for 5 years. I didn't do anything. So then I was kind of like feeling the urge to do something, but I didn't want to do music and do artwork and do video. I just wanted to focus on one thing that could hopefully possibly turn into some sort of business one day, because nobody wants to hear a 40-year-old white rapper from the Poconos. So, so video was kind of like the thing. And I had a good friend of mine, Pete. He's a photographer, videographer. I work with him a lot. He's also one of my mentors, and he was just kind of like, hey man, you've been talking about this for like 5 months. Just do it already. So I was like, yeah, you know what? You're fucking right, man. Like, I'm just going to do it. So I just started doing it. And then, February 2020, I kind of like made my business official, and then the world just completely shut down right after that. So I was like, oh man, this is really poor timing.
Bad timing. But yeah, I mean, really it took you on a friggin' long journey since then. I mean, I just told you before, I went through the entire form that you filled out before you joined VBA. And actually, let's give the viewer the meat here real quick. I mean, before VBA, I saw it in the forum. How much were you making with videos?
So when I started, I was making, I think in 2020, I probably made about $4,000 for the year.
For the year, crazy.
Now I was working a job though,
so and how was that? And how was it like shortly before VBA?
Shortly before, so that was 2020 and 2021. Before we kind of linked up, I probably made $14,000 with my camera. Total. Now again, still working for somebody else. Yeah.
And then in 2022 September you joined, and the rest is history. How much did you make in December?
So this past December, I did about $22,000, which is absolutely crazy to me. I looked back at my books, and from January to June, I made about $6,000 with my camera, and then everything else I made. June. Yeah. So now, so there's some context here. I was working in the pharmaceutical industry for 13 years. I was doing very well there. I had like an $80,000 salary with benefits, everything included. Winds up being like $150,000. And I was there, for 13 years. I probably would have been there for another 30 years, just kind of maybe dabbling with video on the side. And then when the pandemic hit and companies started mandating people get the jab, in order to keep employment, I had a very tough decision to make. And I decided that wasn't going to be the best route for me. It was not an easy decision. I have an 8-year-old son. My wife was a full-time nursing student at the time. I was the only one making an income. So, it wasn't an easy decision, but, it was the tough decisions and those tough points in our life that kind of define us and what we do with those. And I just knew, looking into the future, when my son, my 18-year-old son says, hey, in that crazy COVID time when the world was nuts, what did you do? Like, the last thing I want to do for him is say, hey, when it got really hard, I just folded on my principles and what I believed, and I just did what everybody told me to do. So, and that was the last thing that I was ever going to do. But you know what, man, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that the first, half of the year, really the first quarter, but like the first half of the year, I was in a dark place, man. I was super depressed. I had a lot of anxiety. I was seeing a therapist. I was over medicating myself with weed. I was smoking like 5 blunts a day. I was smoking like 2 ounces a month to myself, which is just absolutely crazy, even for a pothead. And I was spending, $400 a month on that. And then, I was still had my job up until about June. They finally terminated me because I was on like a short-term disability. So they kind of had to wait that process out. But I stopped getting paid in March. So from January to March is kind of when my salary stopped with them. And then again, from January to June, I only made like $6,000 with my camera. So not a lot of money coming in at that time. Luckily, I had some 401k money that I was able to kind of like pull out and lean on to get me through the year. But, with all that being said, I had a very tough decision to make. Was it, last thing I want to do was go back into a pharmaceutical industry, because I feel like they kind of did me dirty in a lot of ways. And I just didn't feel good about staying in that industry. I'm not like one of these anti this or that kind of people. I'm a, you do what you do, I'll do what I do. We leave each other alone. What's best for you and your family, and vice versa. So I'm a libertarian in that sense, where you just do what you do, and we'll leave each other alone. As long as we're not hurting each other, we're good. And the other thing was, I worked with the literal experts on this topic. If I was just working at Burger King or something like that, I'd understand why they were leaving parts of the conversation out. But I worked with the experts on it, and they were leaving very important parts of the conversation out. So all of these things kind of together just kind of like led me to the decision that I made, which was, I'm not going to comply with this. And now I have a new decision. Am I going to re-enter the pharmaceutical industry? Am I just going to go work somewhere else and punch a clock? Or am I going to try to make this videography thing work? And I didn't have the clientele to really warrant it, but I did have some cushion, right? With the 401k money, I was able to survive off of that. And I was just like, I have to give it a shot, because the last thing I want, other than telling my son that when it got hard, I just did what everybody told me to do, is to look back when I'm 60 and go, man, I really wish I would have did that video thing. That would have been cool. Yeah, I don't want to regret that.
Yeah, and that brings me to my point that I spoke about before. I went through the entire form when you applied for VBA and everything, and you put in that your goal was to never ever work again for somebody else. And now we're here, in like after 3 months of joining VBA, you're making 20K a month, which is crazy. What does that make you feel like?
Oh, there's been months where I wasn't so sure this was going to work out.
I want to get into that in a second after.
Yeah. Like me and my wife had some pretty deep conversations, and even sometimes arguments over the situation, because it's like, it would have been easier for me to just go punch a clock for somebody else. I have a very good resume, from the last 13 years. But, being able to do this full time, first of all, I don't have to go and answer to somebody who doesn't respect me anymore. I don't have to go work with somebody who I don't want to work with. If I pitch a client, but then I realize, hey, this person's kind of a dick, and, I just don't vibe with them, I don't have to work with them. And I don't care how much money they're throwing at me. So, but these are the decisions I have to make. Now on the other side of that is, I don't get a check unless I make it happen. And that has been the biggest like learning curve for me, is like, how do I do sales? How do I get people into my funnel so that way I can make 20K a month and do it consistently? Yeah. So
and that's a key word here, because in September you joined, you increased your revenue to like 6.5K, I remember. Then October, November, you completely fucked up, completely zeroed out, and then back up to 20K. So I wanna get a little bit deeper into that learning also. What was the most crucial thing for you to first increase the revenue, but then drop down and then get it back up again?
Yeah. So, I just got in my own way, like, obviously, and the biggest thing for me from the program has been the sales end of it, but also it's been kind of like the self-worth part of it. Like, I'm sure when you start any kind of coaching program, it always starts from the ground floor, where it's like, all right, make your bed and be organized and do all of those mindset things to kind of get you in the right way. And if I'm being completely honest, after I signed up, I went through that first week and I was like, what the fuck did I sign up for? Like, I didn't sign up to make a vision board. You know what I'm saying? I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to learn how to do market research and sales. And that comes, right? That comes in week 2 and then in week 3. But that's been the biggest game changer for me is the sales part of it, because I thought, all right, I'm going to have a video production company. All I got to worry about is making videos. Well, guess what? If you don't have any clients, you ain't making any videos. So it's how do you get those clients in? And previously, I was just kind of sitting on my hands. I made a website and thought, all right, I have a website now. Now I'm going to get work. Nobody knows about my website. Nobody gives a shit. You know, like they don't know who I am. So you really got to kind of put yourself out there. And that was something that I had to learn pretty quickly. But so like I signed up in September. And if you remember right away, I signed a 12K deal. And this was from a current client. So I would have booked the deal anyway, but I can guarantee you, I probably would have charged them like $5,000, maybe $6,000 at the most. So there was a lot of value there early on, to just know what the self-worth is. Hey, you're putting all this work out. You're going to pitch them in this way. Like, you know, you got to make money. You know, if I want to make $15,000 a month or $20,000 a month, I don't want to do $20,000 projects. I'd rather just do one $20,000 project if possible. And then that way I have time with my family and I have time to do other things that I enjoy. But the whole reason why September was good for me. And then, the next 2 months, October, November, I didn't book any new clients. Now I was making money because I had, you know, remaining payments that were coming in for finishing projects. And also I was, you know, filming weddings with my mentor and my friend, Peter. So he was kind of keeping me afloat. So I made money. I made enough money to pay the bills and all of that. So I wasn't too stressed about not being able to pay the bills, but I was getting a little worried about, all right, I'm not booking anybody new. So then when I did some like real reflection on why that was, it was because I was doing nothing. I was doing nothing to warrant booking anybody. When I met you, which I think was the first time we talked, I don't remember. It must have been January or February.
Yeah, 2022.
When we first like made contact, right? Yeah. And I told you straight up, I said, listen, I don't have any money to invest in myself. And now, mind you, now you know kind of where I was mentally in that at that period of time. I was in a dark fucking spot. I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I definitely didn't see any self-worth in myself at all, even outside of video. There was just nothing there for me. So I told you straight up, I don't have any money to invest. I see that there may be value in it. I just don't have any money. I don't want to waste your time. And you were like, all right, that's cool. You weren't pushy. And then, you know, I realized, well, a couple things happened, and I won't kind of get into it too much, but I kind of found my way to God, which is really what lifted me up out of my depression, my anxiety, and I was able to lean on that. And my big brother, Brian, was a huge part in that. My friend John, who's actually now passed away, he was another really big part in kind of bringing me into that world. That was the thing that really, really kind of got me out of my rut. But then I had to do something about it, right? It's, you know, now that you're a little more clear-minded, what are you going to do about it? So I was like, all right, well, I can't keep smoking 5 blunts a day. Like, there's no way that this is helping me. Any little benefit I was getting from it was so far outweighed by the negative impact it was having on me, which was really procrastination, no self-worth, second guessing every thought and decision that I had. Even if I knew I wanted to do video, I'd smoke, and then that rest of that day I'd just be second guessing every decision. Who are you to make money with a camera? You don't have enough skills. You haven't been doing it. You know, like anything in a book, I would throw at myself. So I stopped smoking weed, and I stopped for about 5 months. And then when we met, I wasn't smoking. And then something weird happened. I started booking deals, and my brain said, hey man, you're doing good now. You can go and celebrate again. So in August, my whole family, there was like 20 of us. We went on a family trip, and we stayed in this huge mansion, and we were just all like hanging out and partying and all this shit. And I was like, you know what? I could smoke a little bit. It's not a big deal. I smoked a little bit on that trip, and I smoked every day for a month straight after that. Wow. And that was leading into September. So in September, I booked that deal, and I was like, all right, you know, I'm still making things happen here, and I'm able to smoke, but I was just kind of lying to myself. But that's why in October and November, I didn't really book anybody. Now, mind you, October, I didn't smoke at all. I did sober October. I did no weed, no caffeine, which was, the caffeine was actually the hardest part. The weed wasn't that bad for that month. But then in November, I was like, all right, I made it through October. I could start smoking again. And all through November, I started smoking again. So I could edit all the videos in the world being high, but there is no way I'm calling strangers and doing the sales outreach, being confident in myself and going, selling them something they don't even know that they need yet. So that was just never going to happen. So really, that's kind of why in October, November, I was just kind of slacking. I took my foot off the gas and I just thought like, oh yeah, everything's going to be fine. But yeah, it clearly was not. It was not going to work that way for me.
Yeah. So then in December, you got basically back into the focus mode, into the working kind of brain of Michael, right? And we're able to book. How many deals was that? The 22K.
So the 22K was, I want to say, 3 different deals.
Yeah. So each of them is like, I don't know, 8, 7, between 6 and
on
7
average. Yeah, one of them was a little more. So I booked one with a new client, a huge commercial builder. They do like 20-30 million a year. Nice. They do no video at all. I just happened to send a video pitch to this guy, hit him at the right time. He called me up. Actually, I followed up. I called him the next day.
Good.
Once I saw he watched it. And then he was like, oh, I was actually about to call you. And then one thing led to another. So that was a $10,500 deal. And that's for 2 videos. Wow. I have that's just from the video pitch plus follow-up, right? That's just the video pitch and the follow-up. Yeah.
Crazy.
One of the other deals was a current client who's like one of my best clients. It's actually becoming a good friend of mine and even a mentor in some other realms and like real estate and stuff like that. He was another one. I did I booked a $10,000 or not 10. It was, I did a couple projects with him. One was like 4,000. Another one was like 5. So like, yeah, there was a couple in there, but they were kind of like, some of them I was finishing up. So I was getting remaining payments and some of them were new clients. Yeah. So it's been good, man.
Nice.
It just goes to show you, you got to do the work though. You're like,
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like VBA is not like a magic trick or like a magic wand and suddenly you're successful. It still requires you to put in the work. And that's fairly obvious with your story. Which I fucking love to see your journey from that Michael who's fucking in a hole kind of to the one who's now a shining star, or at least on the way to become one. So what would you say to somebody who is kind of like skeptical? They know they have to change something. They might have been doing videos for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, never really been making money, always struggling financially. Now they see VBA, they see me online and they're like, yeah, okay, this sounds way too good to be true, pretty much, or maybe even like a scam. What would you say to somebody like that who's very skeptical?
Yeah, so I am probably the most skeptical person you'll ever meet. I don't trust anything. I question everything, which I think is healthy to a degree, right? It's like never trust but verify, right? You never trust it, you verify it, and then that's how you kind of build that trust in. So when I first met you back in the beginning of the year, there was I was super skeptical, right? Because you see this all the time, all these different coaches. It's like the newest wave in the past few years where everybody wants to be a coach for something, right? But a lot of times those coaches haven't even done the thing that they're coaching on, whether it's like a fitness coach or like a health coach or business coach. And you're like, well, what the hell have you done? And then, I kind of like looked into you a little bit and I'm like, oh, he actually does have like a video production company. Like, I don't know, I don't have access to your books, right? So I don't know the exact number you were making, but it was clear to me like, oh, you didn't just like think of this out of nowhere without ever holding a camera before and running a successful business. So I was super skeptical. And then even after I purchased, man, I was like, that first week, I was just like so much buyer's remorse because I'm like, oh my God, did I get scammed? What is all this shit? But then I had to talk to my wife and she was like, you got to realize not everybody who's entering this program is starting at the same position. So there are guys and girls who are coming into the program who need week 1 more than anything else. They need mindset training. They need to rewire their brain in that way. And she's like, and maybe you don't need all of those things. I mean, I still got value out of it, but I just thought like, this is not what I'm here for. So I would just say, one, have the conversation, right? Meet with, whoever does the onboarding or the initial contact and have the conversation with them. And I met with Tiago and he didn't tell me anything. He just asked me a bunch of questions. And I realized from my answers, I have no strategy at all. it was like kind of a funny moment because he was just asking me, well, how much did you do? And then, yeah, well, how many projects and this and that? And he's like, all right, so what's your strategy? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really have a strategy. So it was like he didn't have to like convince me to do it. I really kind of convinced myself that there was something missing. Mm-hmm. And then I brought it to my wife, who is also very skeptical about scams and stuff like that. And she was just like, and I wasn't expecting this, but she was like, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. You have to invest in yourself. And maybe these guys are going to be able to give you something that you don't have yet, and that's been valuable for me, like super valuable. So I would just say, one, evaluate yourself. Are you willing to do the work that it's going to take? Because it's not like watch these videos and now all of a sudden Nick's just sending you all of these projects where you can make money on. No, they're just going to teach you how to make your own money, this is like an ingenious program for you. It's like, I know just from like our relationship and knowing you for these past few months that you really do give a shit, like, and you do care. And like, you guys put in work. It's like, if it was a scam, there'd be no videos, there'd be no live calls every week, 5 or 10 or however many you do. I joined like 2-3 live calls a week. There wouldn't be none of that. And like, there's a lot of effort on your part, on your side, that gets put into it. So, but you don't know that until you join the program, right? So anybody coming in, they may remain skeptical until they decide to make the decision. I just hope like my story kind of shines a little bit of light on what the possibilities are. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm on the way for sure.
Where do you want to be?
So my goal for 23 is to have $100,000 in my bank account by June 1st. So that's like my financial goal, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very specific, for the reason that, like in a book, I'm actually reading it and I'm still reading it now. I'm almost finished, Think and Grow Rich, to be able to achieve the specific goals that you think you want to achieve, you really have to kind of like materialize them and then like really bake them into your mindset. So that's what I've kind of been doing now, is like, no, I have a specific goal. Now I hope I make way more than that. But if I make $100,000 by June 1st, I've never made $100,000 in a year in my entire life. And I'm 39 years old. I was making 80. My hope when I was working that pharmaceutical job was to get to 6 figures. And I was almost there. Maybe I would have got there in like another 2 to 5 years, but that would have been 2 to 5 years. And now my goal is to make $100,000 in 6 months. So, and I think it's completely attainable as long as I keep doing what I did in December.
100%. So when you hit the 20K in December, how did your wife react? Because you've brought her up like multiple times now.
Yeah. Again, man, like going through this whole thing of losing my job and then deciding to do this was not an easy decision to make. And it wasn't easy for her to understand how I was going to make it happen, because so many times before I said I was going to do something and then I wouldn't actually follow through with it, right? Or I would do something for a little bit and then I'd get in my own way, with my bad habits and bad decisions. Or I'd find something shiny, I'd get super obsessed about it. And then, a couple months later, it's like, it's an afterthought. I don't even care about it anymore. Yeah. So I think in her mind, she was just like, oh, this is going to be another one of those situations where you say you're going to make this happen, but then you don't. So now when I'm making 20K in a month, kind of hard for her to deny that this is what I do now, and it's awesome, man. Cause my son, he doesn't really know that I work, it used to be, well, dad's not home. He's working second shift. He's not going to be home and you'll be sleeping by then. Now it's like, he knows what I do. He knows that I make videos and he's like he wants to be a YouTuber and all of this shit. So he's like kind of into it, but I'm with him all the time. I get to spend all my time with him. I put him on the bus in the morning. I get him off the bus when he gets home. We do the homework together. It's like, what this has done is like really, I'm starting to get a little emotional here, so I'll try to keep it professional. It's just shown me that even though I thought I was really good at my past job and I did enjoy it and I like the people I work with for the most part, there is nothing like doing the thing that you love doing and then being able to pay your mortgage with it, being able to put food on the table with it. There's nothing like it. I've never been happier in my entire life. Now, I still hold on to this resentment and this anger and this, there, you know, like just this negative thing to my previous employer and how they approached what they did and everything that happened. And I'm not the only one. There's, you know, hundreds and thousands and maybe even millions of people who face the same situation as I did. And a lot of those people are still down in the dumps. They don't know what the hell they're going to do because all they wanted to do was work that job until they retired. Yeah. They don't want to be an entrepreneur. They don't want to own their own business. They don't want to go start a new industry. Some of these people are 40, 50 years old, worked for this company for 25 years, were close enough to retirement where they never thought they were going to have to learn a new skill again. And now they have to start over.
Yeah.
So I think about these people and I go, shit, I guess I'm pretty lucky because I at least had some sort of skill and previous experience doing this thing where I could kind of warrant pursuing it. And I got to be honest with you, man, there's no way I would have made $20,000 in December if I didn't join VBA. There's no freaking way. I was talking to my wife, Christy, about it last night. And I was just like, man, I'm like, that was a good decision, huh? She was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, it was. She's like, I'm really happy you did it. I'm like, so am I. Because I was so on the fence up until the last minute. I was just like, I don't know. Crazy. I think I'm going to call Tiago and tell him, never mind, you know? And she really helped me kind of steer me right. She was like, sometimes you got to take a chance. And for her to say that, it's crazy.
That's crazy. I freaking love your story, man. It's such a beautiful story. This is exactly why we do what we do. It's these kind of stories that we're able to produce on a daily basis. And it's just beautiful. It's so amazing to see that you've changed your life, completely turned it around. And of course, now that's just the beginning. It's like you hit new records, but that's just like a little fraction of what you will achieve in 2023 and beyond. So I'm stoked for you. I'm super excited.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think. Now I look at some of the other folks in the group, and you know, some of these guys are locking in $200,000 deals. So now I'm like scouring, I'm like asking Mike, and I'm like, hey, how the hell did you do that? Like, and now I'm looking like at some of the site. You know, I don't want to give shit away, but I'm looking into like some of the methods that he was even using, some of the people he was talking to, and like, okay, maybe there's some opportunities there in my state where I could even do something like that. Or, you know, there's just so many people in the group who I've kind of like reached out to and leaned on, and who faced similar experiences as I did. Maybe it was like alcohol abuse or drug abuse or just procrastination and like no self-worth kind of issues. Yeah. And just having that there has been another just invaluable part of the program. Is just, it's like, you know, you're not alone. You know, there's other guys and girls in the group that are just, and from all over the world, you know what I'm saying? Like, that are like, yeah, I was kind of doing the same thing, but here's what I did to get out of it. Maybe you could do that too. And, you know, like some of these guys have helped me immensely, and then maybe they don't even know it yet. You know, yeah, so
maybe
it's crazy.
You should tell them. You should tell them.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely won't leave them hanging. Some of them I've definitely expressed that to, but yeah, some of them just even being in the live calls and hearing somebody go, well, I have this thing, and they're asking you a question or somebody else a question, and like, you know, you just get a little bit of value out of it. Like, oh, I haven't faced that exact thing yet, but I might, and when I do, I'm going to be able to remember, like, oh yeah, so-and-so had that issue. Here's how they handled it. Maybe it was wrong. Here's how they were corrected by Nick and some of the other guys. And they were able to kind of get over that hump. So it's been awesome, man. It's been really good. Anybody who's on the fence, man, it really has been a no-brainer for me. Looking back, of course.
Looking back, yeah.
It's scary because it's an investment, man. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. You know, it's not the most expensive program in the world, but it's got a lot of value. It's got a lot of value that it's brought me. And if you're not willing to invest in yourself, maybe you're not cut out for it. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, that's well put, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael, for taking the time. I feel like this story is going to inspire like a lot of people, because I feel that a lot of people that we talk to are in a similar position. Everybody has their own story, but it all comes down to being in a hole, being depressed, not happy with themselves, and then they want to get out. So you did that, and I would love for you to shine that light amongst so many other videographers so they can replicate the same thing for them.
Absolutely, man. You know, any way that I could help. And if anybody who like sees this video after you post it You know, if they're still on the fence and they're skeptical about it, you could reach out to me. You know, you could email me info@seymourmac.com. You could find me on Instagram _SeymourMac. You can put it, I'm sure you'll put it in the description of the video.
For sure.
Put a link to it. Anybody can reach out to me. I'll give you the real deal, what my experience has been. I'm not going to give any secrets away because I want you to participate in the program.
Nice.
You know, I'll give you enough so that way you know it's real, but you have to apply it to your own situation, and 100%. You have to be willing to put the work in. You know, it's just not going to be, I pay him the money and all of a sudden I'm making, you know, $10,000 a month. It's not going to work like that. You know, there's going to be a lot to learn and a lot to apply. It's one thing to learn it. It's another thing to apply it. Once you do those two things consistently, you are going to see success, whatever that means for you. You will see the success. You will reach the goal that you set out, and you're going to find out at the end of the day that you could have done it all along. It's just you didn't know. You didn't know yet, and you just needed some guidance. And maybe you needed sales guidance. Maybe you needed self-worth guidance. Whatever it is, this program is kind of given a lot of that to me. So I appreciate you, man. I really do.
I appreciate you. Thank you for.
I didn't think you were a real person for a while. Just so you know, I thought you were a fake person. I thought you were AI.
I'm real. I'm as real as it gets.
You're real, man. I hope that this year, man, I get to see you.
100% will. 100% will.
Yeah. I told my wife, so now she's like, "Oh, can I come to Bali?" I'm like, listen, it's kind of like a business thing. I'll ask. I'm like, but I don't know. So we'll see.
Let's talk about it in a sec. But thank you so much for the interview, man.
Yeah, no problem, man.
My God, what an amazing story, right? So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for investing your very valuable time. Now, if you're in a similar position like Michael, if you're in a position where you know you want to grow your video business, but you just don't know how, then I got something of interest for you. Right next to me, linked somewhere below, or left or right, whatever, is a video where I explain step by step how the Video Business Academy works. You will see if that's something for you or not. We help videographers grow their business to, as you see, $23,000 in one single month. And we even have a success guarantee for that. So go watch that right now, and we will see each other there.